no, not Friday, Wednesday, April 15th. Hello, hello, welcome. Let's see where you're from in the chat box. Let me know your facility, your state, your province. Has anybody got an unbroken record yet in terms of webinar attendance? How are things today? Vanessa's here from Castlegar. Good morning. So I'm here early as always to hang out, to see how you guys are doing, to answer any questions, to hear what's new, to hear what the weather is like. It's snowing here today, which very, very sad. Yesterday it was sunny. Katie's here. Lots of Katie's representing on this podcast. Katie Short in Ottawa. A little bit of snow. Good morning. Hi, Marcy. Marcy's from High River in Alberta. Let us know where you guys are from. I thought this morning I would talk a little bit about how I started my business, because today Benjamin Zimmerman's going to be here talking about his business, ABC First Aid and Aquatics. I always want to say aquatics and first aid, but first aid and aquatics. Hello, Marjan from the UK. Welcome. Probably much later in the day there in the UK. It's 10:30 here in Alberta. What time is it in the UK? Let us know. So let me pop a couple links in the chat. So I'm going to put the link for, and every time I say I hear it in the recording, so I'm going to work on that today. So I'm going to pop the link in for Ben's business. He will be here today, so talking about his business, which is in Toronto, Ontario. I'll also pop in the link. Most of you have been on my website, Lakeview Aquatic Consultants, but if you've been on the site for POOLaide Webinars, have a look at some of the other links that we have, and I'll talk a little bit about my business, how I got started, and I'll also share some great resources that I have found really beneficial in starting my own side gig and then making it full-time. So Marjan says 5:30, so dinner time in the UK. That's not too bad. I was speaking with a gentleman this morning in the Philippines about certified pool operator training, and he was telling me about the time difference, that basically 9 a.m. East Coast, where another instructor I know teaches, would be 9 p.m. So he'd literally have to take the class from 9 p.m. till 5 a.m. and he was trying to decide if that's something he could do, stay up all night to attend a live class. So good morning. I see Karen's here from Pullman, Washington, Moscow, Idaho. Welcome. Brilliant Community Center in Wisconsin. So a little bit about me, my background in aquatics. I started as a lifeguard, oh my goodness, 2003, so almost 20 years ago. Same as many people, I always knew I wanted to be a lifeguard, always wanted to be a lifeguard, waited until I was old enough to be a lifeguard. I have a December birthday, so that's awful. Any other people who have December birthdays, you know what that's like. You're the last person for your driver's license, you're the last person for your lifeguarding certifications, you're the last person for legal drinking age if that's important to you. So long story short, I became a lifeguard when I turned 16. I actually did it at the pool that Katie Short in the chat is at, Dovercourt Recreation in Ottawa. So I did my NL there in 2003. 2003? Yes, 2003. And long story short, I worked as a lifeguard and swim instructor at a summer camp for several years. Then I went to the University of Toronto for my undergraduate degree, my bachelor's degree. I lifeguarded while I was there at the University of Toronto Athletic Center. They have a 50-meter competition pool for the university athletes, as well as it is now the high performance center for the Canadian Olympic team. So what do they call it? Not reach for the podium. They had a campaign starting 8 or 9 years ago to have more Canadians attend the Olympics. So Toronto, UBC in Vancouver, Montreal, all of these places were designated as Canadian centers for high performance sports. So we had Olympians training, both Paralympians and Olympians, university competition swimmers, as well as at that point in time, there was only 2, if you can believe it, 50-meter regulation competition Olympic pools in the Greater Toronto Area. So the Greater Toronto Area has 3 to 4 million people, and yet there was only 2 Olympic pools. And so we were open pretty much from 5 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week, all throughout my undergraduate degree. They now have So we were the main pool downtown, St. George campus. There was the Etobicoke Olympium was the other 50-meter pool. Now they do have the Pan Am Center in Scarborough. So that was built for the Pan Am Games in 2016. So that's another Olympic pool. And then they are looking to build another Olympic pool. Forgive me, I'm not sure where, but it's been discussed building another Olympic pool. So a huge increase in pool space for the Toronto area. Hello, Chris is here from St. John's, Newfoundland. I actually just posted some photos in my Instagram story this morning from my trips to St. John's last year. I was there in September and November to teach. And I'm doing these throwback armchair tourism stories on Instagram because, I mean, we all need something different to look at. Welcome as well. Carolyn's here from Long Island, New York. I've actually been to Long Island. I went out winter 8 or 9 years ago. It was off season, obviously. We went to, I'm a big Ina Garten fan, right? So Ina Garten lives in the Hamptons. And so we went to all of the little towns that make up the Hamptons with my girlfriend from New York City. We did a kind of off season Hamptons, no traffic, kind of see what it is. It's very small. No Ina Garten sightings. Deirdre's here as well from Long Island. So 2 from Long Island, El Campo, Texas. So just circling back to what I was saying, I was talking about my career. So I was a lifeguard at the University of Toronto for several years. Then I went away to graduate school in Israel. I did my master's degree in religious studies at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem for 2 years. I also took a year off. I lived with my husband in the US, in the Southwest, so New Mexico. And then back to the University of Toronto about 8 years ago. I was a full-time appointed supervisor. So between your upper management, aquatics directors, and then the shift supervisors, I was a full-time staff member. Did that for a few years, moved out to Alberta for a few years. I've been in Alberta now 7 years, 8 years. So I guess U of T would have been a longer time ago. And so I worked in Alberta for the last, oh geez, I should have dated myself. I started in Alberta in 2013. I worked in Northern Alberta managing an aquatic facility, municipal, for 3 years. Then I moved to Southern Alberta, managed a municipal aquatic facility for almost 3 years. Meanwhile, in 2016, my husband had a stroke. So he had a medical stroke. He had uncontrolled diabetes. So this is always anybody in your life who has uncontrolled diabetes, so they don't take their insulin, they don't take their metformin, they don't care about their blood sugar level, it actually can lead to blindness and stroke. So he had a stroke in 2016. And I had taken a pay cut to go to my last facility. So I'd taken a $15,000 pay cut. And so it came to a head that he wasn't going to be able to work. I had taken a pay cut and suddenly we needed some more money. So I started Lakeview Aquatic Consultants in early 2017. I had always been teaching on the side as a guest or contract instructor at other facilities, but I decided to formalize it after my husband had said to me, well, you do all the work, why wouldn't you make your own business? So in Canada, it's very common to be a contract instructor. So perhaps in my Calgary area, maybe I teach for Westside, maybe I teach for Strathmore, maybe I teach for Vacova. All these different facilities, they can hire me at an hourly rate, and it's very easy for them to call me a subcontractor or an employee for a certain period of time. That's very common in Alberta as well as Ontario. However, my husband was the one who suggested to me, well, you should make your own business, you should make your own website, you're really good at what you do, people love taking classes with you, why don't you make your own website? And at the time, like any normal person in aquatics, I was busy, I wanted to have some free time, and I said, well, why would I do that, right? Like, I don't want more work. So he was the one, actually, I give him full credit for pushing me to start Lakeview Aquatic Consultants. And I was initially what's called a sole proprietor in Canada, so just my name on the registration with the province. And so every expense was tax deductible. And then shortly thereafter, I continued by making it an incorporated business. So it's a standalone business for which I am an employee that helps for legal concerns and insurance. And I was still doing this on the side of my day job. And so I had a day job as an aquatic facility manager. I had a staff of 30. I oversaw a pool, a spa or hot tub, a spray park. And I continued to teach classes on the side. And it really got to a point very quickly that I was very, very busy. And so every evening and weekend and holiday, flex time, I was traveling for clients all over Alberta. So in the north, everywhere from Cold Lake, in the south to Strathmore, all over. And then I reached a point about a year and a half ago where my previous employer, we came to a natural agreement that things were not working. And here I am. So I switched to doing my business full time. And it's interesting because a lot of people who knew me professionally but were unaware of Lakeview started in 2017. To them, it was just this sort of poof, this magic, Katie has a new business and it's suddenly successful. And that's really not indicative of the amount of time or energy or efforts that is required to grow a business. And that's not to scare you, but to be realistic and say, you know what, it's like the iceberg, right? You can see the iceberg above the surface, but then below the surface, there's a whole other supporting column of work and failure and money and stress and tears and getting rejected and not being understood, or, you know, just lots of things like that. So I don't want to make it all rosy and perfect, but hopefully in today's session, we can get you to start thinking about projects that you may want to do, whether it's aquatics or crafting or hobbies, and taking a different direction. So Erica was saying her husband had a stroke in 2014 and he had diabetes. So stroke in Canada is actually a leading cause of death. A lot of people don't realize that stroke in Canada, I can't speak to the US, it outnumbers heart attacks in terms of fatalities. And so stroke is just one of those things, we don't really talk about it. It's not as flashy or well known, but it's a huge medical concern, and it's very tough for the spouses, whether it's me, whether it's you, Erica, and it has a lot of lasting consequences. So although my husband is probably 85% okay, he has numbness in his entire body. He doesn't have facial droop, but he doesn't have good fine motor skills. He can burn himself very easily because he cannot feel when things are hot, things are cold. He walks a little bit flat-footed now. He doesn't have core muscles. Like, there's a lot of things that happen, and he looks fine, but he's not. So welcome, everyone. If you're just joining us, I was talking a little bit about how I started my business, Lakeview Aquatic Consultants, as a side hustle in 2017 after my husband had a stroke and we needed some more income. And then I switched to full-time in 2018, I guess, or 2020 now. So I'll be sharing a little bit more about that. Welcome. Let us know where you're here from, your facility. Do you have a side hustle? Do you teach on the side as a contract instructor? Do you do other things, right? Do you sell things on eBay? Do you sell things on Etsy? Do you provide other services such as bookkeeping? Do you teach fitness classes? What are your side hustles? What are things that you currently enjoy doing or would like to start doing? Hi, Joey. Welcome. Joey's here for the pre-show from Toronto, near Toronto. Hi, Mike from Meadville. Thanks for getting back to me, my email. Lisa's here from Creston, BC. Joey says he had a first aid business, so that's a very common one. Pretty easy to set up. You do need to have insurance. You do need to set up your affiliate paperwork. So whoever is issuing the certifications, is it Heart and Stroke Foundation? Is it the Canadian Red Cross or the American Red Cross? Is it the Life Saving Society? Is it St. John's Ambulance, right? You need to set up your paperwork and your insurance and then start advertising. Julie's here from Tilsonburg, and she's a wedding officiant. I think that's so fun. You probably have tons of stories about being a wedding officiant. I have interesting opinions about wedding officiants. I've seen some good ones that my friends have hired, and I've seen some really bad ones. So there was one wedding in Toronto maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, where the officiant just couldn't read the room, didn't know the bride and groom, and I don't think they're responsible for that, but I assume the bride and groom didn't share that information, and it just felt like a meeting. The officiant didn't add any value, I think, to the ceremony other than just officiating it, which I thought was such a lost moment. So Alana's saying she does upholstery and furniture restoration on the side. That would be an awesome creative outlet. I am so bad at any sort of crafting, home decor. Yeah, I'm no good. I do a little bit of quilting, but it's very much in fits and starts. So 2 years ago, I did quilts for all of my husband's He has 2 grown sons and they have children, so they're grandchildren. I did a whole bunch of quilts 2 years ago, and now I've been on a quilt hiatus for the last 18 months because I did, I think, 6 quilts in 12 months. It was really, really a lot, but I am thinking I might circle back to that. So if you're just joining us, let us know what your side hustles are. Are there any jobs that you do on the side? Either, maybe you're a bartender, maybe you do social media marketing, copy editing. What sort of services do you offer? We've seen first aid, we've seen upholstery, we've seen wedding officiant. Karen is saying recreation consulting with her husband plus jewelry. Jewelry would be a problem for me, right? If I sold it, I would keep 2 for me, sell 1 to someone else. So what else have we got? Chris is saying first aid, life-saving courses, leadership courses, sports training, and then special projects. I think most people in aquatics, we have so many diverse skill sets, we can't even put it into 1 or 2 words, right? A couple sentences. So I'm just scrolling. So Katie says she's a school teacher, but she teaches first aid to students as well as workplace courses. Excellent. So food handling is a big one. Any of those certifications or tickets that are required by employers. So Natalie is saying that she substitute teaches in local schools, mostly early elementary and special ed. So all the power to you, Natalie. I am not gifted with a skill set for the patience to work with special education. That I know is a limitation for me. So power to you. That is a very demanding and much needed job. Larissa says that she's a Girl Scout leader working with teens and outdoors and leadership. I think that would be so fun, kind of like summer camp, but during the school year, and being connected to the outdoors and giving these girls, good mentoring and role models. In Canada, we do have the Boy Scouts, but we have also what's called the Girl Guides. The Girl Guides was founded by, the Girl Guides and Boy Scouts were founded by Lord and Lady Baden-Powell from the UK. And so we have the Commonwealth tradition of the Girl Guides and the Boy Scouts. It's a little bit different from the United States, but it is basically the same. Mike is also doing restoration work. So railroad lanterns, that would be amazing. I have a childhood friend, his dad was an antique dealer, and I vividly remember in elementary school, his dad did a moving lantern show in class one day, and it still sticks in my mind. It was so spectacular. I love trains. I love the railroad. We have a tradition in Canada that most of Canada's history and development was through the growth of the railroad across Canada. And so, if you ever look at Canada, so we have this big country and all of our population pretty much follows this route at the southern edge of Canada, which is where the railroad was built in the late 1880s. And where I am in Alberta, we have some interesting engineering feats. We have what's called the spiral tunnels in the Rocky Mountains. And so this was the first time they had to figure out the mountains were so steep and the granite was so hard to penetrate. Instead of sending the trains up the mountains, they did these spiral tunnels that they're spectacular. If you can find them on the internet, you can literally see the train entering one part of the spiral tunnel and the whole train is continuing through multiple spirals so that it can raise up a steep incline. Other side hustles we've got, Deirdre is a swim coach. Mary does so reselling items, kind of eBay style, but at markets. Marilyn is a gymnastics coach as well as teaching aquatics, so leadership and first aid. We've got Portland, Texas here, Noreen from Ottawa. Welcome, Lynn from Allentown, Pennsylvania. Lynn also teaches yoga. Excellent. I love yoga. My yoga studio has been doing online classes, but it's just not the same. I'm so unaccountable to showing up to a yoga class. Christine is here from Las Vegas, Nevada. Welcome. If you're just joining us, let me know where you're from. That's helpful to today's presenter, Ben Zimmerman. He'll be starting about 6 or 7 minutes after the hour. Let us know what side hustles you do in your, not that we have spare time, but side hustles that you do enjoy to earn extra money, whether that's fitness, consulting, bookkeeping, anything like that. So we've got Paige saying that she does leadership. She does have her podcast, Aquatic, and she's selling Arbonne. So I believe that's like cream and beauty products. Stephanie is here from Federal Way, Washington. Jody's here from Pima County. Hoping to open a bakery someday with your daughter. That's amazing. I think that would be wonderful. I do have a former employee. She worked in a bakery, and she said the easiest way to learn to hate buttercream icing is working in a bakery for 6 months. Drew Yorkie's here, so does safety training for recreation facility. Jill does volleyball officiating as well as softball. Renee from Overland Park, Kansas. No side hustles currently, that's okay, but assistant swim coach and teaching private swim lessons. Welcome. If you're just joining us, let us know your side hustles. Byron, Illinois is Alyssa, from Byron, Illinois. Coaches Special Olympics for 3 different sports. That's amazing. I'm going to go ahead and pop these show notes from Monday when Joey Rusnak was here. If you haven't had a chance to look at those, it's a nice recording. It's about 2 hours. I just finished updating all of the links yesterday. So if you go to the recording page for Monday, the show notes, you will see I've grabbed all the data from the chat box, made lists. And oh my goodness, we had so many food ideas. I just kept adding and adding and adding. Apparently aquatics people love food. I mean, I knew that, but I was surprised. The other thing I want to let you guys know, I've started adding additional sessions. I posted 2 today. I announced them on our Facebook page. So if you are interested in following Lakeview Aquatic Consultants, me on Facebook, that is where I first make announcements about different sessions. So I did add, before this webinar, I added Monday, April 27th. I republished Wednesday, April 29th. And then after this webinar this afternoon, I will be announcing Friday, May 1st and Monday, May 4th. So that's as far as I'll announce for the moment. I'm just working on details for everything after that. The other thing I want to mention, we're still a few minutes away from starting. So if you're just joining us, you're not late. We do start a few minutes after the hour. I want to make sure you guys understand that it's really important to me to be compliant with Canadian privacy laws. So in Canada, we have the Freedom of Information and Privacy Act. In the United States, you have FIPA. And so in Canada, it is illegal for me to take your information from the POOLaide webinars and plop them into my own personal marketing email lists or Facebook pages. So I want to make sure that you guys understand that if you're interested in following us on Facebook or following us on Instagram or subscribing to my weekly, currently during COVID, professional email list, you need to do that yourself. We are not going to take all of your contact information and dump it into Lakeview's marketing systems, okay? That is really important to me. Our laws in Canada are much stricter regarding privacy than the United States. So I know in talking with several Americans over the last couple of weeks, they just assumed that I was going to pull all that data over. As of today, we've had 899 people, unique people, attend these webinars. Of course, I could fluff my email list if I wanted to, but that's not why I'm here. So if you do want to subscribe to the email list, I'm going to pop that in the chat box. Please feel free to subscribe, unsubscribe. You do you, right? That's not why I'm here. I'm not looking to fluff my email list, but I just wanted to be transparent that I'm not going to naturally grab that, okay? I see Ben. Hello, Ben. So I'll announce Ben in a minute or two, but can everyone see Ben? Just let us know in the chat box that you can see him. We'll get started in a few minutes. Perfect. I see Jessica's popped the link for the Texas Recreation and Park Society, the CEUs. So if you are interested in CEUs from this session, please make sure that you go to their website or bookmark that website. CEUs are only available for I believe 2 weeks after these webinars end, and only the direct delivery webinars such as today are included. So it's important that you plan. If you need CEUs, don't put this off until May. You won't be able to get them in May. Okay. A couple other things I'm going to pop in the show notes. I'm going to pop in today's show notes. I will pin those. So that's where you can go for today's recording. Will be available end of day tomorrow, Thursday. I've pinned those in the show notes. Sorry, I've pinned the show notes in the chat box. Ben has kindly provided his PowerPoint slides, so you can see them there on the show notes. I've also thrown on a couple links. I'll add some more different resources that I've enjoyed as a business owner. So Jenna Kutcher's podcast, I'll put that in the show notes. the NPR podcast, How I Built This. I'll put that in the show notes. Those have been great resources. So welcome if you're just joining us. I'm going to introduce Ben in one moment. The last thing I want to really talk about before I pass it over to Ben after my introduction is we talked about a giveaway. So I wanted to not announce the giveaway on the Lakeview Facebook page or Instagram page because I wanted to give you guys who are actually here at this session better odds to win giveaway items. So I'm going to do a giveaway today. So today's giveaway, I'm going to give away 2 campfire mugs. So I give these away to clients and different students. I'll be giving away 2. Okay. So what you have to do if you'd like to enter the giveaway, and I will send this anywhere in the world. I will pay the postage to the UK Marjan if you win, or whoever else is on here. What I'm going to ask is we're going to have you comment and like a specific Instagram post. Not going to make you follow me on Instagram if that's not of interest to you. But if you'd like to enter to win the mug, the specific thing you need to comment is your favorite flavor of ice cream on today's Lakeview Aquatic Consultants post, which is of a spray park sign. Okay, so I want you to comment your favorite flavor of ice cream, non-dairy dessert, sorbet, sherbet. Joey, I'm thinking of you, non-dairy. That way, when I go an hour after this webinar closes, I'm going to use a auto selector, but I'm only going to accept comments that have an ice cream flavor. That way we ensure that it's only live webinar participants that are eligible for the mugs. Does that make sense? And then I'll announce the winners in my Instagram stories. And then at the beginning on the show notes for today, I'll contact you. Okay. It is on Instagram. So if you click the link in the chat box, I've just put Lakeview Aquatic Consultants, our Instagram link. So if you go and select the signed photo, you can like the photo, please, and then put a comment about ice cream. You'll see that Ben already from ABC First Aid and Aquatics has gone ahead and shown you what to do. So do what he's done, and then you're eligible to win a mug. Sound good? Okay, so after that long explanation, I'm going to introduce Ben. I'll introduce myself. Sorry, I always forget that. So welcome. Today is Wednesday, April 15th, 2020. We're a couple weeks into COVID. My name is Katie Kreisdale from Lakeview Aquatic Consultants. Thanks for joining us, whether it's now or a couple years from now with watching these webinars on YouTube. This morning, we're going to have Ben Zimmerman here from ABC First Aid and Aquatics in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And I asked Ben to talk about starting his business because I think now is a really important time where people think about themselves financially. So we need to be realistic about the economy. We need to be realistic about the security of our jobs. Will they be available for us to go back to in 1 month or 3 months or 6 months from now? Will our wages be reduced? Will our hours be reduced? Will our opportunities be reduced? I saw a really great thing on Instagram a few days ago that was talking about how you need to focus on your vision for yourself and your family and not tie it too much to one organization. Okay, so I hope that with this session, Ben's going to talk about his journey to starting his own business, his own affiliate. You can start thinking creatively about how you can prioritize yourself in the next couple months, the next couple years. Now is a great time to start a business. I know it doesn't sound that way, and I'm not suggesting you spend thousands of dollars that you don't have, but it's now or never. There's never going to be a hard reset to your schedule. There's never going to be a better time to try and fail, right? Just give it a try. The last thing I'll say about that, I'm going to link in the show notes. I think I did already. There is an episode of NPR, their podcast, How I Built This, with Guy Raz. I selected the Zumba episode because the Zumba founders credit the 2008 financial crisis with helping to launch Zumba as an international brand and fitness movement. They said that their instructors grew like massively, their imprint grew massively because people needed a side hustle. So that's the emphasis for today. I'm going to welcome now Ben Zimmerman, and I'm going to go into the chat box and we'll say hi to Ben. And that's it. Can we make sure that we can hear Ben?
You guys hear me? Perfect. Let me just upload my presentation. Okay, so again, my name is Ben Zimmerman from Toronto. I started my company back in 2014, part-time, and now have been doing it full-time ever since. Just give me a second. So as Katie said, she was doing a giveaway. I decided to do a giveaway as well, to make it better odds for you guys to win a nice prize after today's webinar. So what I asked you guys to do is take a picture at some point during the webinar, upload it to your Instagram story and tag us in it. And then if you desire, follow us as well. I'm not going to force you guys to follow, but it'd be great to connect with you guys on Instagram as well. What I'm giving away is a pocket mask, as well as a face shield that can go onto your keychain. And I'll let you guys pick if you want the yellow or the red one. Essentially, it attaches to your keychain, and then you're going to have a handy face shield whenever you are in a situation you may need to do CPR. And it's always just good to have it on your keychain so you can promote it to other people and let them know the importance of rescue breathing. So in today's presentation, I'm going to be talking about taking your experience, your knowledge, and your creativity and how to work for yourself. We're in a time that a lot of people are not working, reduced hours, laid off, etc. And with all the various different aquatic first aid and CPR certifications that are all around the world, you can take this into your own experience and educate others and work for yourself and make some extra money on the side. Obviously, the aquatics and first aid industry have various pathways outside of community centers, private facilities, city-run programs, and camps, and that's exactly what I do. So I want to share how I started and some steps that you may need to take to start for yourself. So in today's presentation, I'm going to talk about my business path, talk about the various opportunities as you as an instructor, examiner, training partner, affiliate, etc. can do, pros of working for yourself, challenges of working for yourself, connecting with clients, and then we'll have our question and answer period at the end. So a little bit about me. So I started my company in 2014 after working at various private aquatic facilities, country clubs, and summer camps. And I wanted to take my, can you guys hear me? Someone just wrote no sound, so I just want to make sure you can hear me. Yeah, perfect. So in 2014, I started my company actually with my brothers. That's where the name ABC came from. I'm actually a triplet, and our initials are ABC, Adam, Ben, and Kale. Started with my two brothers. One just was lifeguarding at that point. Me and my other brother were actually instructors, examiners, etc. And that's where our name came from. Now I'm kind of doing this more by myself as my other partners work full time, so they kind of help me on the side. During creating this company, I gained a degree in psychology as well as a diploma in paramedics. With my path, I started with the essential of bronze, teaching swimming lessons and being a lifeguard, and I worked my way up to teaching privately at people's pools all around the GTA, which then I expanded to gaining a indoor pool permit with the Toronto District School Board, where I can offer more variety of courses due to space. So such as teaching national lifeguard courses, water safety instructors, life-saving instructors, and further advanced aquatic courses. Then I added teaching my first aid, my CPR, and my basic life support to various workplaces, families, private settings, and healthcare professionals. Each year, I dedicate to advancing my knowledge and participate in new certification and training opportunities because I want to be able to reach out to my clients as much as I can. So there's various different opportunities that someone can teach, instruct, educate others in the first aid and aquatics world. As you can see, all these pictures are actually courses that I myself or my instructors or my partners have taught. And you can see there varies from instructors to dental offices to swim instructor courses in backyard pools, new families that are pregnant, expecting, doing some education and safety for them. Summer camp training, so you can see at the bottom here, I actually went to a summer camp in British Columbia, and they bring me out every single summer to do all their waterfront and their boating safety for all the staff. So there's a lot of different opportunities, obviously, that you can have, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So with the aquatics world, there's many different avenues and paths within aquatics. So the first thing I want to talk about is private lifeguarding. So if you have your lifeguarding certificate, you can advertise yourself and lifeguard at workplace events, birthday parties, celebrations. A lot of people have pool parties and they want that extra safety feature of having a certified lifeguard there with them. To overlook all the guests and kids, adults, whatever, especially if people are drinking or there's other events going on there that parents aren't going to be watching over their kids. They want that added safety effect there for their party. So really taking that lifeguard experience that you have and creating an environment where you can actually work privately at outdoor pools, especially if you're not able to lifeguard due to not having a job right now or being laid off or facilities not being open in the summer. Private swimming lessons. So as we talked about in our previous webinar sessions, myself, Katie, and other aquatic professionals have kind of been talking about that the private swimming lessons is going to be hit this summer because when facilities do open, a lot of parents, families aren't going to be comfortable being in a large setting with many students or many instructors. They want to be in a more confined space with less instructor to candidate ratios. So you can start off by, if you have an outdoor pool or if you have other people that have outdoor pools, obviously offering those swimming lessons to them, whether it's their levels, stroke improvements, adults, parent and taught, fitness classes. You take your knowledge and apply it to your guests and customers. Katie wanted me to talk about insurance. I'll talk about that briefly right now. So you have to be very cautious if you are teaching by yourself, because a lot of your agencies aren't going to cover insurance, especially if you're creating your own business out of it. You have to make sure that you're getting your own special risk liability insurance. So talking to an insurance broker, talking to whoever deals with your insurance about what are some options that are available to you. I know when I started in my backyard pool at my parents' home, our home insurance actually covered our insurance for people in our pool. So I was covered that way. Once I start renting out pools and using other facilities, I had to get my own special risk insurance. So you have to be very cautious about that, because if you don't get your insurance and something happens, you don't want to be screwed over, right? You rather pay that extra money every single year to have your insurance, and it's a safety protection for you and for all your swimmers. So every insurance broker, every region, I'm sure, has different regulations and rules. So talking to your insurance agency and see what options are available for you. So next topic is our private advanced aquatic certifications. So such as your bronze levels, so bronze med, bronze cross, even your rookie ranger star, going into your lifeguarding, your swim instructors, whether it's Red Cross, life-saving, or whatever area you are in. I'm speaking mainly with Ontario and Canada. I don't know the states as well, but offering whatever advanced aquatic certifications agencies have around you to your guests. Another option is being hired as an external instructor, so going into workplaces and being an instructor, being an examiner, being a mentor. Whether it's at summer camps, it's at facilities, it's at people that even are offering backyard lessons that they need an instructor because, or an examiner because they're only an instructor. So in Canada and Ontario, we have 2 designations, one as an instructor, one as an examiner, and only the examiner can examine the final exam and see if that candidate is able to pass or they are unsuccessful in that course. In terms of being an examiner and examiner mentor, a lot of the times these are volunteer roles. So based on where you are advertising, you have to be cautious because they're expected to be as a volunteer position, but some agencies will pay you additional for that certification. Next is Safeguard. So Safeguard, I feel, isn't a certification that is not talked about a lot in the aquatics world in Canada, but it's a very, very, don't know what word I'm looking for, but important course because it teaches families, caregivers, and siblings how to watch and the rules that they need to apply to themselves when they're watching over their kids, other kids, friends, etc. at the water. So it's a specific course to people that aren't lifeguards, but will be watching over their kids, their children's friends, whether they're having people swimming at their pool in the summer, at the waterfront, if they have a cottage, and teaching them the skills that they need to actually safely watch everyone over the body of water to reduce any drowning. So that's something that you guys can offer as well. The next topic in aquatics is summer camp staff aquatic training. So I know personally I do a lot of this. I go to summer camps in the summer and I train their lifeguards, I train their swim staffs, I train any assistants, I train boating safety. So how do you do a spinal rescue in the middle of the lake? What am I going to do with that person's ski if they're unconscious in the water? How am I going to get this person onto the boat properly? What procedures are there, right? A lot of camps change their procedures every year, or they have new staff coming that they need to refresh on these procedures. And the more you do it, the better and more safe that environment can be. With aquatics as well is aquafit. So a lot of people, or some people, are certified in aqua fitness. So taking that knowledge, whether you're doing in people's backyard pools or even on land in people's houses, in front of people's houses, taking your fitness training and applying it to any customers and clients that you may have in that world. So next up is first aid and CPR section. So there's lots of courses that you can offer in this field, such as private first aid and CPR courses. So for families, groups of friends, new parents, caregivers, babysitters, the list can go on. So advertising yourself that, hey, I'm able to certify you in first aid, CPR, etc. I think we should get a group of people together, group of parents together, group of new parents, group like families, babysitters, and educate them, right? And you can do this at the convenience of their location. You don't need a facility. I don't have my own facility. What I do every single day is I'm either renting out pools as needed basis, or I'm going into people's homes. People are coming to my home. I'm going into the park sometimes, right? Wherever that person wants to be, I'm flexible to their needs because I can easily be able to adapt to various environments, right? I have all the equipment that I need. I bring it with me in a safe manner and teach my courses. Next up is workplace training. So healthcare, professionals, corporations, volunteers. So going into workplaces, right? In Ontario, in Canada, we have something called WSIB, Workplace Safety Insurance Board, where in majority of workplaces, if you have over 3, I believe it is, amount of employees, there needs to be one person at site at all times certified in first aid and CPR. Most workplaces are going to have more than that one person certified because that one person needs to be on site at all times. So if they're on break, if they're calling in sick, right, then you're not going to have that person that has the proper training. So a lot of workplaces are getting about 10, 20, 30 of their staff certified, so they have to so they reduce that risk. So it's something you can advertise to workplaces as well of, hey, I can come to your workplace at a convenient time for you. Here are the amount of hours I need to teach this course. And this is what I can offer you. I know that with Red Cross in Canada, they have a blended option, which a lot of workplaces like as well, because they don't need to take off as much work time, and they can do part of it online, part of it in class with you. So they learn the theory online and the practice is in class, right? Every workplace, every person is going to have their own specific preference if they want to do online learning or not. And that's up to the instructor to kind of guide them what will work for them, what will work for you type of thing. I see that Christopher said blend is a challenge, and it is because it's a newer certification with their blended. And we can't kind of see, is this person accurately attaining this information? Because when we do the in-class portion, we don't have as much time with them, right? We don't have as much time to answer all their questions, see everyone in specifics, right? So it's up to you if you want to do that. My recommendation is if you're a newer instructor or have never taught a blended course before, teach a bunch of in-class full courses first before you even offer any type of blended learning, because it is a little bit more challenging to do because of your confined timing. Another thing that I do quite often is certifications for college and university programs, such as nursing, occupational therapy, chiropractor, dentistry, medicine, physiotherapists, paramedics. Any of these healthcare college or university programs, and I'm sure there's many more out there as well, they require the students who have the certification each year, specifically the basic life support certification. So if you get connections with these schools, then you're going to be able to come in year after year after year, and it may be 100 students, right? So whether it's you, someone else that you know, other instructors that you can hire, you can go in and do this, make decent money in short periods of time, and have a lot of these connections, because it's not only that, hey, I'm going to teach this person in nursing, but once this person starts nursing, they're going to be like, I really like that instructor that taught me, and they're going to tell their nursing friends, and you can build your clientele up from that, because this is something they're going to have to do yearly. Another option is lunch and learns. So some workplaces don't necessarily want to pay for all their staff to be certified because it's not necessary sometimes, but they still want their staff to be educated in some aspects. So a nice lunch and learn. If they have an hour lunch break, you come in, that workplace is providing lunch for everyone, and you're just educating them on different topics, right? You can customize that to what that person wants specifically, or you can give them some idea. So such as, what happens if someone goes unconscious at work? How do I check for breathing? Do you guys know if you have an AED nearby? How do you use that? What are the steps to use an AED? Does everyone know how to use an EpiPen or some type of auto injector? What are the signs and symptoms of a severe allergic reaction, right? What are some signs and symptoms of cardiac arrest or heart attacks, strokes, etc.? So going through any first aid material and kind of educating that staff team. Alongside that is psychological first aid. So I know that a few weeks ago we had Christian Clavel talk about psychological first aid and how it's a newer certification that's becoming more and more recognized by a lot of workplaces and individuals. And it's a good way to promote that, hey, staff at your workplace can be stressed, whether at home or at work or at the workplace. So here are some topics we can talk about and help reduce that and help each staff member kind of support each other in a way. If you guys want more information on that psychological first aid, I would advise you to Thanks, Katie, for posting that link right there. Go over to that webinar and listen to that because he provides much more information than I'm going to do right now, because that's not my main point of this presentation. Another thing is workshops and educational seminars. So these are non-certification courses, and they're just workshops to educate, let's say, new parents expecting a baby. What are some safe procedures that I want to teach this person, right? Choking. What are some poisons around that household that I may see? What are some common objects that infants are going to put in their mouth? What are some precautions as a parent I want to do? Should I be locking up my cabinets? Should I keep my cleaning supplies in original containers? Should I put up baby gates, etc.? And going into, what would I do if my baby hits her head? Is this an emergency? What happens if they start bleeding? What am I going to do? If they start choking, how do I properly save that person, right? So it's going into aspects of your first aid, but non-certifications and more of a workshop educational seminar. I just want to talk about this a little bit more. So now that we're not able to teach courses and meet face-to-face with public, I've actually just scheduled my first virtual workshop with a family of 5, where I'm going to be dropping off infant mannequins. They're expecting a baby in the next couple months. I'm going to drop off some infant mannequins, and I'm going to do a virtual class on educating them on various topics that they have asked me to educate them on, because you have to be adaptable to what they want to learn. And then we'll have our session of what to do for choking, what to do for CPR, and then our question and answer period. So it's a great way to kind of still reach out to your clients, your customers, and reach out to new clients and customers and let them know, hey, you can't really take a course right now. We want you to be safe and be kind of not as nervous and frantic when you're having a new child coming into the house. How am I going to educate them, right? So doing Zoom, doing click meetings, do any other virtual online platforms. So I see a question from Julie. Are you going to have them clean the mannequins before returning them to you? So yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop off the mannequins at their door. In a Ziploc bag, I'll have gloves and some Lysol wipes provided for them. Once I pick them up, I'll have them leave them outside their doors. I'll pick them up, I'll Lysol them again, just to be sure, before putting it back into my car. Once I get home, I'll clean them once again, right? We want to be as safe as possible, so clean those mannequins as much as you can and avoiding any contact. And you can be creative in this as well by offering other types of educational workshops, whether to workplaces. They want their staff to kind of still be maintained in that workplace setting, even virtually. So saying, hey, I'm going to do some type of educational seminar for your staff, and then once we are able to get back into the workplace, we can further this discussion in an actual certification. And then the last section for first aid and CPR is summer camp and staff training. So most summer camps, all their staff are required to have some type of first aid and CPR certifications every single year, every 2 years, depending on that camp's preference. So it's a great way to apply your knowledge to a wide group of individuals and do yearly training or bi-yearly training for those staff members, because it's a large chunk of people at those camps, whether it's sleepover camps, day camps, backyard camps, you name it, they're all going to require some type of first aid training. Some other opportunities. So thinking about in the summer, there's going to be, people are going to want play groups, whether it's with their own children, friends, etc. So doing some type of educational activity in the water, right? So endurance relay races, stroke competitions, underwater endurance swims, swim proficiency. Be creative, and I'm sure you guys can think of great ways to kind of advertise and market yourself to play groups and kids for the summer, because they're going to want to be getting in the water. I know in my area, a lot of people have pools or condo pools, so it's a great way to use those places and teach others. Virtual bath lessons, right? So you can get these infants or these parents to kind of like parent and taught type of sessions and give them ideas what to do in the bath. Get them to record it for you even, and you'll be able to see video progressions for these small children, right? So whether it's blowing bubbles, teach them how to do a proper float, or even how to hold your child in the water, right? Getting your eyes in the water. So taking those steps into a bathtub type of environment, because not everyone does have a pool, but we still need to introduce swimming to small children at an early age to reduce that fear for them in the future. Swim and first aid camp. So I know we talked about this on previous webinars as well, but swim and first aid camps are going to be a big hit this summer, because if camps are going back this summer, if schools are still being closed throughout the summers, all of that, parents are going to be at home with their children, right? We're hoping that we're able to, at some point in the summer, do some type of small gatherings. So doing a small group swim or first aid camp, whether it's for small children or for like a bronze like crash course, right? Even if you wanted to do a swim lesson for a few like kids, extending that to you have your swim lesson, you do a snack break, and you do another activity, and it becomes a half-day activity, and it's helping those parents, and they're going to really appreciate that. Another thing with the swim and aquatics world, in order to get your name around, to get recognized, to build experience, you're going to have to volunteer at some point, right? Don't expect every single thing that you're doing, you're going to make some type of money from it. But with the experience, that's going to gain your skills and everything, that you're going to be able to better promote yourself, better offer certain courses to your clients and your customers. So don't be afraid to volunteer, right? Volunteer, take that knowledge, take everything that you got from that volunteering, and apply that for your future courses. So really taking your swim and aquatic knowledge and think of fun sessions to lead with children, right? Even adults, kids, teens, etc. Take your knowledge, take your creative minds, and see what you can do to offer different style courses or crash courses or educational workshops for them. So just some pros of working for yourself, because everyone in their mind was like, hey, I would love to work for yourself, but it's not always the funnest to work for yourself, right? So we'll talk about the good side, and then we'll talk about the bad side. So obviously, pro of working yourself is you can charge your own desired rates, right? No one's telling you what to charge for your courses. You can kind of charge what you want, right? You can adapt to different group sizes, locations, etc., and kind of be adaptable in that field, right? We can be very flexible and adaptable to our clients based on locations, etc., right? So example for me is that I'm very flexible to my clients' needs of, even I've taught a course, for example, in London, Ontario, about 2 hours away from me, because it made sense for me to go there and teach that course, right? So it's up to you. Am I able to feasibly go to that location? It doesn't make sense for me. So you can be flexible in that way, and flexible of, hey, I'm going to come to you, right? I'm going to make it easier for you at a time that's convenient for you. Pro is you get a lot of referrals. So if you're teaching the best that you can and putting all your effort, creativity, making it fun and engaging for your clients, then they're going to start referring you. So for example, at the beginning of the year, a few months ago, I started with one dental clinic that I do every single year, and that turned out to about 10 so far in the year, just from one dental clinic that I went to, right? And now dental clinics are one of my main clientele that I go to, because I keep getting referrals and referrals and referrals from various different dental offices and those fields. Obviously, one of the best pros of working for yourself is you're your own boss, right? You can make all the decisions. You can decide everything. You can do whatever you want, right? So you can think about it as a pro, but actually could be a challenge as well. Working for yourself and starting your own company, for example, you gain lots of valuable skills, such as in communication, customer service and satisfaction, marketing, advertising, budgeting, inventory, ordering and supply, right? You're having to do these skills, so you're learning every day new ways to do it, new skills about it, connecting with other people, doing online courses, right? So you're gaining these skills that's going to make you able to become a better business, right? Now the challenging part, right? So having your own equipment that meets legislation, right? Equipment is expensive, right? So if you're running some type of first aid course, you need specific amount of equipment based on your agency that they give you a guideline of what you need, or you're not able to teach, right? And if you don't have that equipment, you can be audited in some way and lose all your instructor, examiner, all your certifications, right? So you have to make sure that you're following all the legislations by the agencies to meet all the standards. With your equipment, obviously it's an investment that you need to make. And as you grow or your clientele grows, you may have to get more and more equipment to meet the ratios of the equipment that you need, right? It's an investment you need to make. You make it, you may not have to buy it for a while until you build up your clientele even more. And you can kind of be creative in this as well, of looking online. You don't have to buy brand new equipment. I recently bought some little hand mannequins with feedback mechanisms off of Letgo, which is a app like Kijiji, for very cheap. I got 3 mannequins for $300. Well, each mannequin is probably around that amount, right? So be creative in your way of don't just necessarily buy brand new equipment, but look around before you make that investment. So like I said, you have to spend money in order to make money, right? You sometimes need to offer free or reduced rates to build your connections to your future clients. So when so great point, Joey. You can rent equipment from places as well. There's a lot of companies that will rent you your equipment. But if you're constantly renting, think about it like same as like renting a house or apartment, right? You're sometimes throwing away that money rather than buying it one time as an investment, and then you're going to have that for good and not going to be spending as much money long term necessarily. So when you're starting off, you may have to offer free or reduced rates to build your connections to future clients, right? So 1 year you may have a workplace that you're going to charge them X amount, and then each year you can slowly kind of increase your pricing as you build your experience in clientele, obviously. Another challenging thing with running aquatic courses is, does your pool meet requirement for specific courses? So I know that my personal backyard pool doesn't meet the requirements for a lifeguarding course, and most backyard outdoor pools don't. So you have to make sure that the facility even that you're renting has that required space for that course. Is it deep enough? Is it long enough, etc.? Insurance, we kind of talked about that as well. So paying for insurance, that's obviously a challenge with people that are starting up, that you may not have that income necessary to even cover your insurance. And one of the biggest challenges, there's tons of competition, right? There's a lot of swim schools, first aid companies around the world. I'll speak about in the GTA, there's lots of them. So you have to be competitive with them, whether it's with what you're advertising, your prices, your materials, how you actually conduct your courses. So think about that when you're running your courses as well. So obviously a large challenge is not having your own facility and not being able to control variable factors. So is the pool temperature the temperature I want it to be at? Are there any pool issues? So I know multiple times I've walked into a pool I rented out and there's something wrong with the pool that wasn't communicated to me. Or I got a cancellation 2 days before my course, and I had to look around those previous 2 days all day, every day until I can find a pool, right? And I had to pay more money than I wanted to, but I need to kind of satisfy my customers, and I can't just cancel my course because I don't have the pool. I have to find a way sometimes. So there can be a lot of booking difficulties with renting pools. With your candidates as well, right? When I book my pools, I only book them for a certain amount of time. So if my candidates are showing up late, or someone's canceling last minute where I may not meet my required candidate ratios, then what am I going to do? So you have to be creative and be adaptable in those ways, because you don't have that extra pool space. You just offer course whenever you want. You're renting out a pool specifically for these courses that you're running. And if people are showing up late, not on time, not showing up at all, what are you going to do? Because you don't really have that extra makeup time. So connecting with clients, obviously when you're starting a company, when you're trying to instruct or teach others, you need to connect with your clients in some way. So these days, social media is a large one. So Facebook. So there's a lot of mommy groups, regional groups. So in your area, so I know in my area, there's like mommy and me groups, and there is like parents of Toronto, etc. So reaching out to those groups to advertise yourself, right? Be cautious because some of these groups have restrictions on advertising. So sometimes contacting the lead of the group to see if you're able to do that, or contacting company owners that are in affiliation with these groups as well. Instagram, obviously Instagram is a big one. So such as just posting what you're doing every single day. So I know with my Instagram, when I'm running, let's say, a lifeguarding course, I'm actually putting my Instagram stories as my candidates doing their time swim, doing the object recovery, right? So I'm showing in real time what I'm doing my courses, because this gives people in the course, their family, their friends, kind of an aspect of what they're actually doing, of, hey, I think I can do this. It looks like it's not so hard, or they're having fun while they're doing this. I want to take this course, right? A lot of people are very afraid to take lifeguarding courses because of all the physical standards. But if you show in a way that people are having fun while they're doing it, and you're practicing a lot, and you're setting them up for success, you're more willing to have people wanting to take your courses, right? Same with your, let's say you're teaching a new parent group, right? You're teaching them CPR, you're teaching them first aid, and you're posting that, and then their friends are seeing that because you're tagging them and they're tagging you in it. And they're like, hey, that's a great idea, because a lot of people don't think about taking these type of courses when they're having babies. Or even if they're having multiple babies, so in a few years they're having another baby, they're like, hey, I took this, but they don't realize things change, things got forgotten, right? It's kind of said that with any first aid course that you lose like 50% of that knowledge after a week or two after that course, right? You're only grasping onto the most essential points, but we want people to remember as much as possible. So constantly doing these courses, not just one time for these parent groups, right? Another way to connect is word of mouth and client referrals, like I said before. Affiliation websites. So I know if you're an affiliate with, let's say, with Life Saving Society, you can post your courses on their course roster, and people can sign up through the Life Saving website. Ads, so doing some type of online or in-person ads, whether you're mailing out to people or you're just posting it on online. So it's actually Facebook, Instagram, online platforms. Business card. So obviously you want to have some type of business card, because you never know what opportunities can arise. So you always want to have some business cards in your car, in your pocket, wherever else near you. So if you're in an opportunity where you're talking to someone, you can be like, hey, this is what I do. Here's my business card. Reach out to me, right? They're very cheap. I order mine off of Vistaprint, and I think you can get like 100 for like $20 or something. And you can customize them any way you want. And it's a good way to advertise yourself, right? Don't be afraid to promote yourself, because you never know where these opportunities are going to lead to. I even have my friends and my family members have my business cards. So for example, my dad was out and he was with some of his friends and he had my business card. He says, hey, my son does first aid courses. And they're like, oh, like our company does our annual first aid courses, took my business card, and from that I got a new client. So you never know where opportunities will lead. So the more people that can help you advertise, so word of mouth, giving out business cards, the more you can benefit yourself, right? So a little bit more about the marketing and advertising. So you have to think about what are some things you can do to market and advertise yourself, right? As I said before, challenge is that there's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of first aid instructors, lifeguard instructors, swim instructors, etc. So how am I going to market myself to promote my business, that I want you to take a course with me rather than someone else, right? So potentially having some type of competitive rates, discount and reduce rates for certain size groups. Just be creative. So some such examples that I thought about to let you guys know is, let's say, take 8 lessons, get 2 free. Have two friends sign up for a course and get a discount. Have someone organize a lifeguard group and then you get a reduced rate, right? So that one person can get like a group of 10 people and you're not doing any work for that, so you give that person a nice discount. Referral programs, where you give either a free research or a 10% off, or etc., however way you want to do it, but market yourself that way. One that I like to do is giving a discount during Heart Month, because A, you're promoting the importance of Heart Month and cardiac health. At the same time, you're offering these courses and giving them a discount to recognize how important the safety of cardiovascular disease is. And then another way is complete 4 recertifications and get the next one discounted, right? So think of creative ways. I've met someone that ran a company that had like the punch card, so similar to how like Tim Hortons, McDonald's, and those companies do it, where 8, and then they have that card and they can present it to that recertification, and then they get that one free type of thing. So talking a little bit more about pool access. So I know I talked about that I rent out school board pools and I have a permit for that. So looking into wherever you live, if you're able to get a permit with those indoor facilities. Another option is renting out indoor pool space. So hotels, retirement homes, swim schools. These tend to be more expensive than the pool permits, but just looking around. Some swim schools have after hours that you can rent it out as well, but those aren't prime times where sometimes you may not want to run a course, but sometimes your candidates may want to, hey, I need an evening research because I work all day, and then that's something of an option to you. Outdoor backyard pools as well, so going to clients' homes if you have your own backyard pool, but making sure obviously meet standards for your courses and it's a safe environment as well, right? Condo and apartment pools, and then waterfront as well. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about equipment. So obviously, whenever you're teaching some type of courses, there are required equipment that you need. But there's also some equipment that's not in the requirements that I would recommend you guys having, because it kind of sets you apart from other places and also gives your clients a better representation of, hey, if this actually were to happen, what am I going to do? Have I ever seen something like this before? So there's tons of different mannequins out there. I know that some agencies in Ontario are now switching to, in 2021, to feedback-only mannequins, so such as our Prestons and our Little Annies. These are my 2 favorite mannequins that you can kind of have because they're very representation and they're most reliable, and they more feeling like a real person, right? They're as close as a human that you can get these type of mannequins. They have lights on them that give you feedback if you're doing proper compressions, deep enough, etc. So I would recommend that as my top type of mannequin. There's all sorts of mannequins, such as your Actars, all your foams and that stuff, which are great if you're going to be around a pool because the Pressians and the little Anns are battery powered. So good as an extra resource, but actually to like examine your candidates with the skill, I would recommend those feedback recognized mannequins. Face shields. So a lot of our courses say we need some type of barrier device. So whether you're using a pocket mask or a face shield, face shields obviously are cheaper than our pocket masks. You can go on Amazon, get a pack of like 100 for like 10 or 20 bucks. And they're great to give out to your candidates on the first day of any CPR or first aid courses and have them kind of keep that with them for the remainder of that course. Auto instructor trainer. So we have our EpiPen and our AviQ. So a lot of instructors that I see will only have this type. A lot of people don't know about the newer model of the AviQ. Right? It was under a different brand name previously, Allerjack, but that was recalled, and now it's under a new brand name called AviQ. With the EpiPen, you can simply just go onto the EpiPen website and order one, a trainer for free, and same with your AviQ, right? They're only going to allow one per customer, though. Another thing is tourniquet. So bleeding management has been on the rise recently, especially with all our gun shootings, stabbings, all that stuff. And the tourniquet is a newer type of field in our first aid courses. So having some type of tourniquet in our courses to show people this is what you can use and this is when you should use it. Again, I order mine from Amazon. And there's a lot of first aid sites that you can order them from as well. Do your research, look around. Don't just look at one place and be like, hey, I'm going to order this. But look around, see reviews, see everything, and because you want to get the best quality equipment as possible, right? Guard tubes as well. So your rescue aids, don't just have one type in your courses, have multiple types, right? Your candidates are going to be working in a vast variety of places, so you want them to be comfortable with any type of rescue aids, right? We have our classic red one here, but then there's newer ones that are being developed as well that you want people to be comfortable with. I have this toilet paper roll here. I thought I would make a little joke because of our whole toilet paper crisis right now, but I always bring a roll of toilet paper to my courses as an icebreaker activity, right? Part of your equipment isn't only physical equipment, but it's also icebreaker activities as well. So the activity that I like to do with my toilet paper roll is I bring out my toilet paper roll, hand it to someone, and I said, the rules of the game is I'm going to give you a toilet paper roll. You're going to take as many or as those pieces as you want and then pass along the roll. At the end, they're all going to count up how many pieces they took, and then they have to share something about themselves, right? You can do any type of task for that as well, like tell me X amount of things that you're excited about for this course, you're nervous about, or you can do this at the end of the course, tell me some things that you learned about. So it's a great activity to do with your class. And then also your life jacket and PFDs. I like to bring those to all my courses, whether I'm even doing a first aid course or bronze course, because it shows parents, kids, teens how to properly size up your life jackets, PFDs, the importance of it, and how to properly wear it, right? Part of working in this aquatics first aid recreational field is education, and we want to educate ourselves as much as possible and educate our clients and customers. So some simple thing of just bringing a life jacket of various sizes to your courses and teach people how to properly use it is a step that you can take. I'll post these, or I'll get Katie to post these later on. These are mainly Canada-wide from Red Cross Lifesaving and Heart and Stroke about affiliate information, equipment requirements, and information about that. So I'll post that later and get Katie to kind of post that in the show notes as well. So I'm almost done here. So again, just those that may have not been here when I started, I'm doing a giveaway for a pocket mask and some face shields. I have a yellow and a red one, your choice of color. The face shield attaches to your keychain, and you can have it wherever you go. So what I require for the giveaway is take a picture during this webinar, post it afterwards. I'll give up to an hour after the webinar. Tag us, follow us if you like. And here's all of that information as well. So my Instagram is right over here, ABC First Aid Aquatics. And you guys can obviously take a look at my website, my Facebook. Feel free to contact me with my email if you have any other questions or anything, or if you want to just connect with me in the future. And that is it of my presentation.
Awesome. That was so great. I had to be on mute the whole time because every time you said something, I wanted to write it down and I wanted to jump right in. So I think this is probably one of my favorite sessions so far because obviously I have a personal passion as a business owner. But interestingly, I don't know about you, Ben, but for me, I never envisioned myself as a small business owner. I was okay working for the man, as it were. And so when people ask me, you know, did you have dreams of being a business owner? That wasn't me at all. So I think it's been interesting to kind of grow into it and really enjoy it now, whereas initially that wasn't my plan. How did you always want to be an owner, or how did you decide?
So I really just started this part-time when I was in school and doing a lot of like summer camp training. And I'm like, hey, I can take this and expand. And I just kept getting more and more certifications, and it kind of just like fell into my hands. And then I started recently doing it more full-time. And just like love what I do, and like I'm passionate about everything that I do, and then it's important to have that and love the job that you do.
Yeah, I think most people on this chat, probably whether they're doing aquatics programming or teaching or any other side hustle, they probably fell into it, whether they had this skill set or whether they love the hobby, teaching Zumba, teaching yoga, coaching. So if you guys have questions, please pop them in the chat box. I'm going to circle back to the first couple questions that occurred while Ben was presenting. So I will go in order. As you have questions, add them to the chat box and I'll scroll back. So I loved hearing the name of your business. I didn't know, Ben, you were a triplet. That makes so much sense now, the ABC First Aid and Aquatics.
Yeah.
The first thing that everybody was asking about, and probably the most important piece, in my opinion, as an aquatics person, is insurance. So Ben talked a little bit about insurance. In the chat box, we've shared the McFarland and Roland is one Ontario insurance. I don't know who you use, Ben, for your insurance. Do you know?
I can double check. I don't know offhand.
Okay, so I can talk about my insurance while you do that. So definitely you need to have insurance. I cannot stress this enough. I spoke with someone recently who contracts for an affiliate in the GTA, not Ben, a different affiliate, and she became aware that her affiliate may not have the kind of insurance that they should be having. And so she was very concerned about the risk that she had brought upon herself as a contract instructor working for an affiliate that had inadequate insurance. So myself, Lakeview Aquatic Consultants, I did have to go through several brokers to finally find somebody who would do with high risk or non-traditional insurance. Most insurance brokers have no idea what we do. And so I did finally get an insurance broker that I met through a networking session. And he said, yeah, no problem. I'll figure it out. You know, that's why they pay me to sell insurance. It's my job to figure it out. And so our policy is about 7 million Canadian, which Americans on the call will laugh at us, but we don't have a very litigious society in Canada. The first legal settlement I'm aware of is the University of Regina diving settlement for that paraplegia, 9 million Canadian about 2 years ago. That's the first major legal settlement in Canadian aquatics. So 7 million for Lakeview is pretty good. I pay about 900 a year. My broker is in Alberta. I'm registered in Alberta under Royal Sun Alliance. So definitely look for insurance. You need to have insurance. And that is, for me, I don't know about you, Ben, why I became incorporated separate from Katie Crysdale, the person, right? So the business holds the insurance, I work for the business.
Yeah, and part of that also is like registering yourself as a business owner as well, rather than just being an individual. And it's much easier to get your insurance that way as well when you're a registered business too.
Yeah, I think that's a huge piece. So if we're thinking about some checklist items, if you want to start a business, don't scrimp, in my opinion, don't scrimp on those little details like a business license in your area or your town, registering if you can, not as a sole proprietor. Maybe you start as a sole proprietor and then you become a business. It's not a lot of paperwork. For me in Alberta, it was about $500 at the registry. And then every year I pay $100 renewal. Other things would be insurance is a huge one. Do not do anything without insurance. There in the chat box, there were some discussions. So if you have recommendations of brokers, let us know. I can speak to Alberta. People can speak to Ontario. In the US, the Association of Aquatic Professionals, the AOAP, if you are a member with them, you can purchase their insurance policy. And I also want to let you know, certain provinces, so the Life Saving Society of Alberta and the Northwest Territories actually has a private insurance policy that NL Award can purchase through the LSS Alberta. So if you are not in Alberta, friends, I would ask you, talk to your local affiliate. So if you're Life Saving BC, Newfoundland, Quebec, ask them to do this for you. Alberta brought out the LSS insurance policy a few years ago. It's not comprehensive. I believe it's only $2 million, but it's very affordable for those lifeguards that want to do backyard lifeguarding, backyard instruction without paying. I pay about $900 a year. That's totally the cost of doing business for me. But other people, if you're teaching very little, may find that prohibitive. Yeah. Ben, did you find the policy at all?
Yeah, so I'm with CRE Insurance. And my amount of insurance is $2 million.
Okay.
So it's less than yours. But again, like you said, that $9 million is the max you've ever really heard of. So really talking to your insurance broker, because obviously I don't know much about insurance. That's on my field. And speaking around to various other insurance brokers, right? The insurance that I'm doing is the same insurance that covers my home and that stuff. So all my things are kind of together. So it works out that way. And typically you can be on a plan that makes it cheaper for you as well.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Ben. I knew very little about insurance, but I needed to learn with my broker because there were things like I teach on the road in different provinces, provide consulting. So errors and omissions is huge. Trade shows is huge, right? So we can't give you insurance advice in this session, but don't settle with a broker that you don't like. Make sure you shop around, ask questions, ask if they get you insured. They should work for you. If they're working on commission, they should tell you a policy that you can actually use. I'm seeing in the chat box, Noreen, if you know the Life Saving Ontario or anybody Life Saving Ontario, it looks like they may now have an insurance policy as well. Can somebody please link to that in the chat box? I also want to talk.
Another thing as well with related to your insurance and all of that is making sure when you are offering courses to have some type of waiver form. That they're signing off, because that protects you as a business as well, so people can't start to sue you if they sign that waiver, for example, right? It's just an extra layer of protection for you and your company.
Yeah, and I think we could drill down probably for hours in everything that you've learned, Ben, on the job, and I've learned. It's a steep learning curve. You realize, oh, I didn't do that, and then you pay for it financially, but hopefully it's a small penalty and a bigger lesson for later.
Exactly.
I want to talk non-compete and conflicts with your employer. So that was a question in the chat box. Have you had any thoughts, Ben, on what you did to distinguish yourself from not conflicting or competing with any facilities that you worked at when you got your start?
So when I started, I was teaching and a supervisor at 2 different aquatic centers. But they didn't have any regulations of me teaching privately. It's more of I cannot steal any clients that are registered at that facility. So be cautious with that as well. And that's when I left, that's when I started to kind of build up and can advertise more, because I didn't want to advertise as much when I was still working at a different facility.
Yeah, I think that's going to be very specific to the organization. So those that are thinking of doing this, check your employment letter when you were hired. If you don't have it, ask HR to send it to you. That's a very simple thing. They'll have a record. Check if there's non-compete. Is it while you're employed? Is it for a year after you're employed? I mean, there's very basics, as Ben said, like be kind. Don't poach your own clients. That's a very short-term financial windfall for a long-term amount of pain and unprofessionalism. You know, make it very transparent. I know even for me, my staff didn't know initially that I had a side business. Towards the end they did, but that's how you keep it separate, right? I didn't even like initially to do my Lakeview work on my lunch break, because that for me felt like a slippery slope, because then how do people distinguish the lines? Like, so for me, it was very easy to get up early, do it before my day job, do it after my day job. But I think it's important that you guys make sure that you aren't competing, because it has the potential. Some organizations absolutely will go after you, and it's not just for the fees that you earned on this course this week. It could be prohibiting you from doing, perhaps if my organization paid for me to be a first aid instructor, then they try and claim against all first aid courses that I've done for 2 years, or they try and prevent me from teaching first aid courses, or, you know, you just want to be very careful until you've felt out what you're allowed to do. Chat with a lawyer if you need to, or chat with somebody business oriented if you're not sure.
Exactly. It's always like better to be safe than sorry, right? You want to protect yourself as much as you can, because at the end of the day, it's going to be some type of financial loss for you and not for the organization you work for.
I want to circle back, Ben. You talked a lot about non-certification, and we were talking in the chat box a little bit, but I really want to stress one of the reasons I asked Ben to talk on this topic. I've been following him on Instagram probably for a year and a half, and he's very modest, and I know he's a little bit stressed, so he's not as fun as he normally is. And like, it's hard, you guys, it's so hard to be high energy on a webinar. So all credit to Ben. He's doing what he can do. But I really want to highlight Ben's creativity with non-certification, like that education component, right? So young families, things like that, it's not necessarily certification driven. And I think a lot of people think of I can only make money by offering a class with a certificate at the end. You guys are education experts, you're subject matter experts. There's probably things that you do in your day job that is a very niche service that you could provide. Maybe it's free now during COVID, and then maybe it's money later. But I think, Ben, just to add to your point, if you have anything else you want to add, like education, whether it's first aid or in the home, I think that's so key, and a lot of people are missing that.
Yeah, like I would say half the people require certifications, half the people are just taking for educational purposes. So all of like your nannies or caregivers or new parents and even grandparents and that stuff, friends and family that want to be educated, they don't care about a certification. They just want that education. As well as, let's say people want private swim lessons. Like some people don't care about that badge at the end, right? They just want their child to become a better swimmer and be safer in the water. So have a talk with their clients and be like, if you want these certifications, that's definitely something I can do, but I can maybe do a course cheaper for you if you didn't want that, because you don't have your associated fees that you have to pay for those certifications, right? So be open and honest with your clients and let them know the various options that you can offer, because if they don't need that certification, a lot of them will want that workshop and a cheaper price because it works for them better.
Yeah, I think that's a huge piece I want to talk about as well, is the flexibility. So Ben's articulated in his business model flexibility for the client needs. And I can't tell you how much I see in my business, and Ben probably in his business, how much we pick up clients because we are flexible to their needs. Like, I am a for-profit business, so I provide service. If you want me to start the certified pool operator class for your staff at 6 a.m., I will be there at 6 a.m. because that is what the client wants. And I think a piece you need to think about as you go into your business is, what are you prepared to do? If you don't want to provide that level of flexibility, that's fine, but you need to know that that's a market advantage for someone else, and that's fine. You can distinguish yourself in other ways, like Ben mentioned, social media, volunteering, quality of instruction. But I know for me, I've picked up many clients when people have said, can you start at 6 a.m.? Can you split the course over 4 nights? Like we want to do a 7 to 10 p.m. delivery at the end of shift, or we want to do once a week for 4 weeks, or we want to do 2 hours a week, 4 days a week, right? That creativity that the client cannot get at a traditional affiliate, by which I mean a classroom first aid school or perhaps a pool. That is where my business has thrived. And it sounds like Ben, your has too.
Yeah, like I'll give an example of that. Last summer, I ran a lifeguarding course for someone that actually had a pool that met the standards in their backyard. It was a massive pool. And they wanted 2-hour sessions every Sunday.
Okay.
And typically when I run my lifeguarding courses, I'll do like a full day or half day course because I find in 2-hour sessions of the next session, you kind of have to do a review for half of that, etc. But I was flexible to that, ended up working out great. But like it's annoying for the instructor to come in for 2 hours and do a lifeguarding course every single week for like 12 weeks. But it's something that you're meeting the standard still, and I'm meeting that satisfaction of those customers.
Well, and I think as a business owner, when you're not a programmer or a facility manager at a bigger facility, we can make those decisions.
Exactly.
We don't necessarily have lower overhead, but as you said, the client care and the referrals from their satisfaction and you teaching it is more palatable than trying to find a lifeguard that doesn't want to work a 2-hour shift for 12 or 14 weeks. Right. And I think the other thing to your point, Ben, about the licensing fees and education. So maybe there's something that they don't need the actual certification. They want the knowledge. And by not issuing the licensing, by just delivering generic education with your expertise, that does free you up to be more creative in a proper way. So the example I can give is my friend is a Booty yoga instructor. That is a branded type of yoga. And so that Booty, the company, is very restrictive for how she can offer it. So if she wants to do, for example, a yoga and wine night, which she often does before COVID, she doesn't call it Booty Yoga because that wouldn't fit in what their business model says. She says, you know, Christie's Yoga Fusion, and it's Booty techniques without the official proprietary Booty name. And so she's able to serve, she gets a liquor license, and then at the end she serves wine and champagne. Right? So you could do the same where you're doing, I love we were saying in home. I have many pregnant friends right now that have no desire to go to a classroom and try and stand up and sit down to learn CPR. But if it's in their living room with their family members, pre-COVID, let's say, then that's what's comfortable for them around the hours that they need. Right? You can be more creative with, you know, maybe there's a snack or maybe they're doing their own wine and cheese and you just show up and it's a personal residence. There's nothing you can do.
Exactly, especially like at the beginning of the conversation you're having with everyone about some side things that they do, whether it's knitting, etc. Taking your passions and be like, we're going to a knitting and CPR night. So taking both of like a lot of your qualities that you have and double what you can do type of thing, and that's your creativity showing up in those courses as well.
Yeah, and I think you could go so many different ways thinking creatively, like, you know, a baby shower or as a pregnancy announcement. Like there's just so much you could do if you get into that mindset. And I would challenge those of you guys still on this call. I was municipal for many years. I didn't think about profit because we were just a pool and we ran. When I became a business owner, I realized that I had to learn more lessons from the private commercial sector, right? The Starbucks, the Nike, the Google. We have to be marketing ourselves, and social media is key. So Ben, can you talk a little bit about the process? So he does stories. I loved what he said where his participants get tagged, or you said yesterday in our pre-chat that they like to get tagged or they want to get tagged. Yeah. Can you talk about how you use that in your business?
Yeah, so a lot of what I do is for summer camps and day camps and organizations where a lot of the staff there are friends or know each other. So a lot of them like to be on that social media with their friends, and I get them to kind of like, I'll tag them, get them to follow me, and then showing their friends about what we offer, what our courses look like behind the scenes of the courses, not just, hey, here's a group picture at the end, but this is what we do in our courses. These are some creative activities that we're doing in our courses. This is them struggling when they're doing the time swim to show every aspect of it, because the more open and the more you demonstrate to everyone, the more they're going to be able to see of, hey, this is what this course is actually like, and you're kind of putting them in the course virtually through your stories.
Yeah, I think if I can tell you a little bit, Ben, maybe today in your stories, can you do like grab some archive shots or make a highlight? Because obviously Ben's not teaching in a pool right now, but if you can throw up some examples, he does it really, really well. I don't see a lot of Instagram accounts doing that at the training, like the candidate level. I see it for staff training, but I mean, yeah, I'm already dated, right? We're dealing with 14, 16-year-old candidates, but if they want to be tagged, they want to be reshared. I love the honest and authenticity piece. For those of you,
just speak on that. Like when I am doing my pictures and that stuff on my registration form, I have them to give me permission to post, right? So you have to get that permission for you to actually take pictures of them in those courses.
Yeah, so I think the chat box is frozen. So I don't know, Ben, if you're seeing anything. I've typed a couple things and they haven't ended up in the chat box, or is it me?
The last one I see is from Paige with the question mark, and nothing from you.
Okay, yeah. So guys, if the chat box is frozen, I am really apologize about that. You can tag us questions if you have a means. You have my contact info, or tag us on.
Can you do like the hand whatever?
Oh yeah, we can do that too. Yes. Oh, here it is. Now it's okay. Now it's backloaded. Did anyone see that it's now kind of? Oh, maybe not. Okay, if anybody wants to ask questions, we'll do a hand, or you can also, if you have Instagram, you can comment, and I'll check my phone in a moment. So I apologize. I don't know what's happening with the chat box. I have a couple other questions for sure for Ben. So yeah, let's talk about, there was a question earlier about bylaws. So have you run into any issues where you can't teach, or you've discovered that you have to change what you had planned? Has bylaw been an issue where you are, or do you have any experience with that?
I haven't had any issues with that. I just make sure when I am running my courses that all the pools that I'm working meet the standards for the course I have to teach. And I'm making sure I have proper ratios and all that stuff as well.
Okay. I love that you mentioned aqua fitness classes and pools. Even when I was at the University of Toronto 20 years ago, I had a colleague. She would go up to Rosedale, which is an expensive neighborhood in Toronto. She would teach 3 ladies twice a week, $50 for an hour, which was a ton of money back then. Not saying it's not money now, but I'm glad that you mentioned that. Can you talk a little bit, Ben? You mentioned different things that you've had to purchase. You mentioned equipment and marketing supplies. As a business owner, I always tell people spend as you need it. Like, try not to buy too much before you. What are some other things that you've purchased or done to set up your business?
So obviously I like just to have a lot of variety of different like first aid supplies. So I'm not just going to have the standard bandage that you have in your first aid kit, but I'm going to have very different types as well. On top of that, if I'm going to like my mommy groups or something like that, of like, hey, here's a cloth that you have in your house. You don't necessarily have a first aid kit in your house, or here's a t-shirt, use this to control a bleed. So using everyday objects, not as well, like not just what you have in a first aid kit, right? Because we have to be practical. People don't carry first aid kits around with them in their back pocket, but they do have tools in their car, on the person, and that stuff that they can use for emergencies.
Yeah, I also like that you talked, Ben, about distinguishing yourself as a business. So in terms of equipment or quality, is there any other like personal or professional mantras you've set for your business? Like, we're going to do this because I hated experiencing that at my old facilities, or I see other people doing this, therefore I'm going to do it this way.
Just one thing, like the main thing really is that I saw from just teaching at other facilities and that stuff, a lot of people like to not meet program standards and kind of go behind everything. So, hey, I have a 40-hour National Lifeguard course. I'm going to do it in 25 hours because I have only 7 people in the course or 8 people in the course, whatever it is. So just making sure that you're meeting those standards, because like if anyone realizes, or if you fail someone because of that, that can bite you in the ass. And you don't want that to happen, right? So as long as you're meeting the standards, that's the most important part, right? Who cares if you're repeating a spinal rescue 7,000 times in that course because you have a small class? We want these people to be as perfect as possible.
Yeah, I'm so glad that up. That was a comment I wanted to get to, was program standards. There were some people in the chat talking about whether blended learning or any sort of delivery. I know myself, I've interacted with affiliates or small businesses that are doing horrible. They're not following program standards, and that does a disservice to the candidates coming out. They're uncertified, poorly prepared. It's a cash grab. And so I think it's really important that you guys know that there are proper affiliates out there. My business, Ben's business, companies that want to do it properly, and we can actually provide a better service in some ways because we don't have the red tape of municipal. We can provide coffee or snacks, or we provide supplies that you can afford, or our costs are not necessarily cheaper. In some instances they may be, because we can do smaller classes, custom locations. In general, we're providing a service in a market the same way that private swim schools have a place against YMCAs and municipal pools, right? There's different levels of service and price that people can afford.
Yeah, and you can also, what you can offer as well is like, hey, if you can provide me with a pool, I can offer you cheaper pricing as well because your expense is lowered at that point as well.
Yes, that's exactly what I was just going to get to next. So I've experienced the same thing, Ben, that you have. I've booked rooms, sight unseen, showed up, and they were not acceptable. And so I had a $400, $500 fee to switch facilities at the last minute because I don't want my candidates to be dissatisfied with the course. What about, there was a question people are asking about pool rates. Not that you can, every area is different, but typically what are you spending on pool time, or how do you find you pick facilities? How did you find the facilities that you like to use?
Yeah, so I use Toronto District School Board pools the most. I try to stay central within the Toronto area, just so people that are coming from more north or more south, it's kind of central area. So I have about 3 or 4 pools that I mainly use. But again, sometimes it's very hard that all the pools that you want are booked up. So you're going to have to use a new pool, or use a pool that isn't in a desired location. And that I haven't really had an issue with that before. That my clients are kind of very adaptive to where I'm booking that pool, and I tell them I'm going to stay within central Toronto. What Toronto District School Board charges is $60 an hour to book out their facility during prime hours, and then if you go over certain hours, so I think it's after 5 o'clock on the weekends, and then after about 7 or 8 on the weekday, then they're upcharging you an additional, I believe, $10 or $15 an hour. I've rented out hotel pools as well, and it was about $90 an hour. So that's like kind of my last resort if I can't get a pool. But I haven't really found anything cheaper than that.
Yeah, I mean, when you become a business owner, Ben's done this, I've done this, you start to develop your business costs. You look at saying, well, maybe I have to spend more on the hotel pool today, but it's going to be worth it because of the referrals, or because of the photos I can get, or because of the experience. I'll eat that cost. The worst is when something happens, like I had one in January, it still burns me. So I have to point.
That's my dog.
Everything. Long story short, I forgot my projector screen at home. I own one. I own a projector. I travel with them. I left it at home. I didn't have time to return to Calgary to get my screen, and so the hotel charged me $450 to pull in a screen that's in storage, right? And I eat it because I made a mistake. So it happens. I think another question that came up, Ben, in relation to that, how do you find with costs and scaling? So I think the question in the chat was scaling bigger for more revenue, but I'm going to also ask it, Ben, for you, like, do you find is your sweet spot with classes? Because bigger is not always better in terms of effort or profit. Oh, hold on, Ben, I think we lost you. One sec. Hello, can you hear me, Ben? No, you can hear me, but I can't hear you. One sec. No, I can't hear you, Ben. Yeah, sorry, but you can hear me, Ben? Okay, so I think what we're gonna do, guys, because the chat box is frozen, I'm gonna do a couple things. The chat box is frozen. I will go online and hopefully I can pull the chat box file and get all of your questions and comments. What I'm gonna do with Ben is I'm gonna end this event. I'm gonna call Ben back. We're gonna record the last couple things I wanna cover, and then I'll make sure I upload both files to YouTube, okay? Does that sound good? You understood that, Ben? Okay, perfect. So sorry, guys, I'm not sure what happened with the chat box. I will put everything on the show notes if you're still here, but I am going to end the event so that I can finish up with Ben. We'll record the last. Just got to hit off the recording. 1 second. Oh, geez. Hey, I don't know what happened. I'm wondering if it's me, like my internet is still frozen. Well, and the thing too is, so I assume it's my end or the software, because so normally the next thing I click end recording and it's just not budging, and I'm trying, like, on the one hand I don't want to leave the room, sure it's recording, on this is frozen, then it, right? So let me just click around for a few minutes. Do you have time? Like, do you have time for me to actually? Okay. So then why don't you check your social media, see if there's any questions. I'm hopeful, like I said, at the chat box, I'm hoping that it'll grab, even though I couldn't see it. But give me a minute or two. I'm going to use the bathroom and see if I can get I'll just send you a new ad hoc webinar, and I won't record it. Like, we'll connect, and then when you're ready, we'll click record and see what we can answer. Okay, thank you. Couple minutes. Bye.